Division. I see it all around me, and I'm not talking about anything related to arithmetic. Our culture today seems to be more divided than ever. It can be seen in politics. Republicans versus Democrats, Democrats versus the president. It exists in economics. There's the 1% versus the rest of us. It exists in racial prejudice, in liberal versus conservative, in religion. Seems like it's everywhere. It grows from disagreement to argument to vitriol to violence. It's time for a break. In Matthew 22:36 through 40, Jesus is asked by a Pharisee expert in the law, which is the greatest commandment. Let's read his answer. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. Did you notice what he said in the second commandment? We are to love our neighbors. What he doesn't tell us is who our neighbors are. Are they those who live in our community? Are they the ones who look like us? Are they the ones who think like us? We have a tendency to put limits on who qualifies as a neighbor. And how are we to love them? Jesus gave us an example when a woman caught in adultery is brought to him by the Pharisees. Let's look at John 8:4 through 11, which begins with a Pharisee talking. Jesus, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say? They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. Again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to drift away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? No one, sir, she said. Then neither do I condemn you, Jesus declared. Go now and leave your life of sin. There is no condemnation from Jesus, no ridicule, no shame, just love and respect. I have struggled in recent years with the division going on in our denomination and what is required of me to love my neighbor. Digging deeper, our Sunday morning study group was studying a book by Pastor Chris Hodges before we could no longer meet in person. The book is called The Daniel Dilemma, How to Stand Firm and Love Well in a Culture of Compromise. What is the Daniel Dilemma? Recall that about age 15, Daniel was taken into exile in the first waves of Jews banished to Babylon by the army of King Nebuchadnezzar. For the next 70 years or so, Daniel not only lived amongst the Babylonians, but he also prospered in the courts of several kings. In fact, in Daniel 6, verse 3, we read, Now Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and the satraps by his exceptional qualities that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. King Darius thought highly of Daniel. It troubled the king greatly when he was trapped by the high officials into having Daniel thrown into the lion's den. How did Daniel and his friends accomplish this? They stood firm in their faith in God and in their Jewish religion. Yet they treated the Babylonians with respect. No condemnation, no ridicule, no shame. Yes, Daniel told the kings what God required of them. He alone was able to interpret their dreams, the messages God sent to them in their sleep. But throughout his exile, Daniel stood firm in his faith in God. And in the end, even kings shunned their pagan gods and turned their faith to the God of Daniel. Daniel is my example as I face this dilemma of who is my neighbor and how do I love them. If you would like to dig deeper into the book of Daniel, we have provided an excellent study guide by Gene Taylor. You can find a link to it either above or below this devotional.